Hello and welcome to the next adventure in our Ratchet & Clank marathon. Today we're going to be talking about Ratchet & Clank 2, Going Commando. What did it do better? What did it do worse? How was it created? How did it end up? What was everyone's reception of Ratchet & Clank Going Commando? Today we're going to be talking about that and more. But before that, feel free to take a look down below and check out that subscribe button and the notification bell to be notified when I make more Ratchet & Clank content, because there is a lot more to come. Plus, I do other really cool stuff. Top 10s, countdowns, fan-made games, cut content. Also, lost media. Tons of cool stuff. So feel free to subscribe if you like that. Sonic, Crash, Spyro. I know you like it. Anyways, on to the video. Going Commando began development in June of 2002, about 5 months before Ratchet & Clank 1 was released, giving Going Commando about 17 months of development time to complete. Their team size also doubled from 40 to 80 employees during the development cycle, and with a ton of new features and ideas on the table, there was a lot of work to be done. Thankfully, all of those ideas came into realization on November 11th, 2003, when this bad boy came into our hands. So, let's take a look at it and see what exactly this sequel has to offer. We start our journey with an interview with Ratchet & Clank, catching up on their adventures since we last left them, and well, it doesn't really seem like much has happened in their life. At this rate, Ratchet might throw on a few pounds. Thankfully though, Ratchet receives a call from the head honcho, the big moolah, the cheese tower man himself, Abercrombie Fidgewidget, the founder of Megacorp, a brand new massive corporation based in a new galaxy for us to explore called the Bogon Galaxy. So Ratchet and Clank pack up and head on out to see what Fidgewidget wants help with. Once we arrive in the Bogon Galaxy, Mr. Fidgewidget informs us that a precious piece of cargo has been stolen from them, and he needs Ratchet to go retrieve it for him. These first few levels are really weird since we don't have Clank with us to begin with like we did in the first game, but on the other hand, we get a sweet new set of armor to wear that helps protect us. We also start this game with 2 new guns instead of 1. We get the Gravity Bomb, which feels like a much better version of the Bomb Glove, and the Lancer, which is a pretty nice auto rifle type gun. 2 totally different types of weapons to get you acquainted to different playstyles the game can offer you. After a short adventure through the ship here, we find what we're looking for, but the thief shows up and makes off with it. We could have just followed them down this tube, but I guess we can take the long way around and miss catching them. After, we are now introduced to the side enemy of the game, Thugs for Less, a band of thugs for hire that want you dead. These characters will show up periodically throughout the game and try to kill you, so we don't like them that much. Our first venture brings us to our first actual level of the game, Planet Uzla. And just like the first game, we have multiple different paths we can use to unlock new levels and items as rewards for exploring every nook and cranny. The 2 paths on this planet bring us to a scientist who will sell us our first gadget, which helps us move platforms around. I do have an issue with the gadgets though in this game. In the first game, gadgets were highlighted in green on the quick select wheel, while in Going Commando, weapons and gadgets are the exact same color. I'm not a huge fan of this since it makes it a lot harder to track where your gadgets are when you're trying to quick switch them. Yes, the change does make the UI look a little nicer, but I think keeping the green look for gadgets would have been a better choice overall. The second path makes us watch a bunch of scientists die in front of us, mentally scarring Ratchet for the rest of his life. But also to a giant plant monster we need to fight, again, mentally scarring Ratchet for the rest of his life. And at the end of this level, we learn about my favorite level in the game. Chainblade! 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 Yeah, the Coliseum is an amazing addition to the game, and I always love playing through all the challenges the first time through. Oh yeah, challenges. Yeah, maybe we should talk about those. While traveling through the galaxy, you will encounter random activities like Coliseum fights, spaceship fights, or bike races. They all have challenges tied to them, and each time you beat a challenge, you'll unlock a new one, rewarding you with items or bolts. These challenges are usually the same through the game. Beat a certain amount of enemies, win a race, shoot all the planes down. It's a pretty boring system, to be honest, but it adds more to the experience and stuff to do while playing through the game, so I guess that's kind of a bonus. But now that we've done some challenges and have some money, we can also buy a few guns for ourselves to use. This game has done a bit of a better job at locking weapons up from you for longer periods of time. Seeing as in Ratchet 1, every time I got to a new planet, I could basically afford the new gun available right off the bat. But in Going Commando, it doesn't take long for you to realize that things are going to be very different as weapons start costing crazy amounts of money pretty quickly. While we're talking about the weapons, I think it would be a pretty good time to talk about the main new mechanics of the game: leveling and strafing. Going Commando really revitalized the series with weapon levels, a new mechanic that would be carried on to pretty much every single Ratchet & Clank after this. As you play the game and kill enemies, you'll slowly gain experience that will not only level up your health, but also level up the weapons you're using, unlocking bigger and more powerful versions of all of the weapons in your arsenal. Besides the Gadgetron weapons, those don't have upgrades until your second playthrough. This is a beautiful design that gets you excited to level up your new weapons and figure out what new abilities that they'll have. That's right, your weapons don't just receive a power increase when you level them up, they'll also sometimes completely change how they shoot or deal damage to enemies. In the first playthrough, you can only upgrade each of these weapons once, but once we unlock challenge mode, we can upgrade our new guns one more time by purchasing the mega versions of them for maximum carnage. Back to the story though, we finally learn where Clank has been this whole time. He's been robo-napped, and we have to save him from the thief who is shocking him. Remember this scene because this is important and I will bring it up later. With Clank saved now, we can start really exploring areas we couldn't get to before. And one area that is really cool is this Gadgetron vendor in the middle of the desert here. You're able to buy some fan favorite Gadgetron weapons from the first game. But if you have a save file from the first game, with these weapons already bought, you can actually just pick up all these guns for free, excluding the Rhino 2, which is really cool to have. Getting rewarded for playing previous games in the series is just a really nice concept, and it makes it feel like it's more of a built upon universe. I love the idea. Like I said before, these Gadgetron guns sadly can't be upgraded until you start challenge mode on your second playthrough, but they're still pretty powerful and a welcome addition to your arsenal, especially if you receive them for free. We also get our first hands-on experience with racing in this game, and I mean, it's nothing special, it's a fun little addition to the game, but nothing I would really write home about. It's just kinda there. Yet another amazing new addition to the game to talk about is weapon mods. Unlike the first game where gold bolts were collected to buy upgraded, more powerful versions of guns, in this game we collect platinum bolts that we can then trade to Slim Cognito for some weapon mods. I do have to say though, the menu not showing you how many bolts are on each planet like it did in the first game is definitely kind of a downgrade. But let's talk about the mods a little bit. These will allow you to lock onto enemies, shoot acid at them, chain lightning to other enemies. All pretty awesome things. And it just gives you more variation and ways to play Ratchet & Clank. It's a welcome addition and something I really didn't expect on my first playthrough. Another gameplay mechanic that they expanded upon in Going Commando is the space dog fights. At first, I really hated these because I found them way too difficult. I kept dying over and over again, and no enemies would ever fly in front of me or drop any sort of health pickups. Till I had a prairie dog moment and realized that for some reason, if you're using your boost, the AI will just always tail you and never put themselves in view of your guns. So I just kind of stopped using the boost and enemies just flew into my reticle, and it made all of these challenges so much easier. Out of the 3 bonus modes, the Coliseum, racing, and space fights, This one has to be my least favorite. I just don't really like how it controls, and I didn't find it that hard or fun to play. At least the races felt challenging and rewarding to complete compared to these. Our next big encounter in the story is a boss fight with the thief. And I mean, I don't know if I would call this a boss fight, like, just look at the health bar go. Oh boy, that was quick, and kinda pathetic. Well, now that that's over, we can return this thing to Mr. Fidgewidget and the game should be over. And he ejected us into a desert. This level is once again the introduction to brand new mechanics and designs. Going Commando just has non-stop innovation to their game. Here on this planet, we're introduced to our first open world area in Ratchet & Clank ever. It's not much, but it was different, a start for the series to say the least. A large open area for you to explore and collect crystals in by looting them off the ground or killing giant monsters. Turning these into the guru nearby will net you a buttload of bolts, and it's pretty fun to explore and kill all these monsters for loot. There is another version of this area later in the game on a snow world, but I would say this one is more of a hassle than anything. These Yeti bimbo things never stop spawning and are so annoying to deal with. Everything here also takes a million points of damage to kill. I really like the idea they had here and what they did with it, and I would love to see something like this expanded on in Rift Apart, or maybe just another Ratchet & Clank game in the future. At this point in the game, we start getting little cutscenes between planets, showing us what happened to Quark after the first game, which is kind of a nice throwback to the first game. Would have been nice to have some different ones of these that talked about Skid McMarx or other characters, but I guess this is better than nothing. And we are now back on the trail of Mr. Fizzwidget, trying to find him to figure out why he ditched us in the desert, and when we finally do find him, it's not actually him, it's a trap. Now, we're going directly to prison, and we're not gonna pass go. Seriously though, I just ran through an entire city, killing hundreds of these dudes, and just like 3 of them show up, and they're like, "You're going to prison," and Ratchet's just like, yeah, why not? Now that we're in the prison, at least we get a pretty cool sequence of events, where we get to play as Ratchet and Clank as they help each other open doors and help guide each character into the next area. I actually really like this, and wish they would have done more stuff like this in the future games. I mean, Ratchet and Clank 2 are separate people. They can both do their own things, and we can control both of them, so why don't we more often? Now it's time for a plot twist. The thief is actually a Lombax, and she has no time to explain why she has no time to explain. What's going on? What's with the Protopets and Megacorp? Like, so much of the last half of this game could have been solved if she just told us any of the information earlier than she ends up doing. It just kind of makes the whole thing drag on. Like, I understand we need a game and some way to drive the story forward, but it just doesn't make sense. Also, why was she zapping Clank at the beginning if she's not actually a bad guy? She did a lot of really bad things. She tortured Clank. I know, I told you I was going to bring this back up. I'm actually legitimately upset about this. She tortured Clank, and Ratchet just completely forgives her because she's hot, I guess. On the other hand, why is Ratchet not freaking out more? I mean, she's a Lombax, and Ratchet is supposedly the last Lombax. I guess that phrase wasn't really pitched until Tools of Destruction, but then that just brings more questions to mind. Why did they call him the last Lombax knowing Angela existed beforehand? And on the other hand, they also introduced a new Lombax in Rift Apart's trailer that completely destroys the lore behind female Lombaxes not having tails. So, seems like no one's really keeping track of the Ratchet and Clank lore, and someone needs to pay. Seriously, Insomniac, if you need a lore master for your games, feel free to hit me up. I'd love your game. I'd love it so hard. I'd make it so good. I'd make the lore so deep. You'd love it. You'd love what I would do to your game. Sorry about that. Truthfully, from this point forward, nothing really happens story-wise until the very end of the game. We just hop from world to world trying to learn about the Protopets and Mr. Fidgewidget, until finally we meet in the Megacorp facility to take out the Protopets forever, and then Captain Quark shows up. Wait, what? Yeah, this is the most shoehorned in plot twist I've ever experienced. It was really bad. I mean, Going Commando's story wasn't that strong compared to the first games, but this is just a really low. They built up this whole idea in the backstory that Megacorp is this massive evil corporation that destroys planets and enslaves people for their own material gain, and bring you into this idea that maybe Mr. Fidgewidget has some crazy evil plan for these Protopets, kind of like Drek did, but instead they're just kind of like, hey look, Captain Quark, remember him? You guys liked him. He's back and he's destroying a new galaxy so you can love him after he pretends to save it. I don't know what else to say, but the ending spoils a lot of what Going Commando had going for it, and reminds me why I completely forgot about what the ending of this game was like until I replayed it again for this review. I'm also curious, if Quark wanted to ruin this galaxy, why bother bringing in Ratchet and Clank to help him, knowing that we would end up screwing up his plans like we did last time? And why did he try to leave us in the desert and kill us instead of just keeping us by his side as his lackeys and not reveal his plans to us? I mean, Quark's dumb, we realized that in the first game, but come on, he can't be that dumb. Or is he? Huh. Now that we're past all the story stuff, let's dive deeper into a few more things, starting with the artistic design. Personally, I feel like Going Commando is a beautiful game. A lot of its sets, enemies, and weapons are very well designed, but overall, it's missing that shine that Ratchet & Clank 1 had. Its levels in the first game just felt more alive, vibrant, and bigger than life. While a lot of the levels in this game are just missing that spark, they have this flat look to a lot of them. Yes, they are big and magical and have some ambience to them. It's not quite to the level the first game had. The lighting doesn't feel as nice, and there just aren't as many things moving around in the background to feel like a living environment. The music, on the other hand, is just phenomenal. A huge step up from the first game. While the first game had the techno 80s vibe to it, it still had hints of Spyro in it, and it made it seem out of place sometimes. The music for Going Commando has come in full swing, being the first game that truly feels like a Ratchet & Clank soundtrack, and I love listening to this one whenever I can. Finally, challenge mode. Oh boy, does Going Commando bring the heat in challenge mode. Not only do they unlock a new playthrough that's more difficult, you also gain a bolt multiplier that increases as you kill enemies without taking damage. You gain mega versions of guns you have upgraded, a new upgrade for Clank called the Clank Zapper, new challenges in the Coliseum, and bonus extras in the extras menu. This is definitely a huge upgrade from the first game. And that's really it. Going Commando is just an overall upgrade to an already amazing game. There is so much more to experience, way better controls and handling, an amazing soundtrack, an overall fantastic experience. Sure, there are some minor gripes like a worse story and a few weird design choices here and there, but I think Going Commando is just a fantastic game that I would love to play over and over again. But I can't because we have to move on, because I have more videos to make and I need to start playing Up Your Arsenal. I have fond connections to this game as a child, but we'll save the stories for the review. And until then, feel free to post all your comments down below. I'm always down there replying to as many as I possibly can because I love you all. You're a fantastic community. You are the best. Each and every single one of you are amazing. Thank you all for coming on by and watching my video, and until then, I'll see all of you in the next video. Just a quick thank you to my YouTube and Patreon supporters. You guys are so generous, and I thank you a million times over. If anyone else would like to help support the channel and the content I create, feel free to check the description below for links to my Patreon.